freshmen. I hope you guys are doing good at home. We miss you. We wish that you were here with us. We can all see the light at the end of the tunnel with Thanksgiving just around the corner, and we'll all be home. So sorry that you're still stuck at home, but we're looking forward to having you guys back. So in geography today, we began our unit on East Asia, which includes China, Japan, Mongolia, North and South Korea, and Taiwan. And so today's lesson we started with China. So we'll spend probably 4, maybe 5 class periods on China, and then we'll dive into some of those other areas. So today we started talking about China. We are in chapter 26, which covers China, Mongolia, and Taiwan. And so essentially, I'm going to send you the PowerPoint. I'm hoping the PowerPoint's not going to be so massive that it won't upload to Google Classroom. If that is the case and I can't get it to upload, I'm probably going to have to take some of the pictures off and try to upload it again. So if my video does not coincide with the PowerPoint, just bear with me. That may end up happening. I'm not sure. So thank you for all of those that sent in pictures for their extra credit for their test. The tests are still sitting here looking at me, talking to me, singing to me, Mrs. Campbell, please come grade me. And I haven't been able to get to it. It is what it is. So I always try to get them finished within a week of taking them. So I've still got a couple days left. So I'm hoping to get them finished. I'll probably start them today. So stay tuned. But I enjoyed your pictures. If the PowerPoint will upload, I included the pictures that you all sent in. Lily, your bread looked great. And I think Addie, you made, I don't remember if you sent me anything actually. I feel like you did. I'll have to go back and look. Anyway, so enjoy the pictures of all the various delicacies, Russian delicacies. People made tea cakes, Russian tea cakes. I had a couple people made Russian apple cake, looked super good. Kennedy's family made a sort of a Russian pretzel. Let's see, Nathan's family made Russian stroganoff, that's what it was. So it looks like beef stroganoff, but it was a Russian variety. So anyway, it all looked good. Lily, your bread looked yummy. So, so I'm gonna kind of zip through the slides here. The first main slide after the pictures of all your yummy food is just a picture of the country of China. There's several maps that I want you just to spend some time looking at that show the physical terrain of China. The opening section of chapter 26 is the physical characteristics of East Asia, primarily China. So some of the things that you'll notice in the very first map, it's a I don't know what kind of map this is, but it has the various important locations in China. So you'll see there's a panda bear actually on there in Chengdu. There's a big zoo in Chengdu. You'll see Beijing up in the right-hand, sort of the right-hand corner. Looks like a red Noah's Ark, but that's actually the Forbidden City. You see the Great Wall of China. You see the Tibetan Plateau and Mount Everest. Hong Kong, the city of Hong Kong, the city of Shanghai, all very large cities. The Tibetan Plateau with the very, very famous Tibetan monastery where the Dalai Lama is from, the Grand Buddha, anyway, just a whole bunch of stuff. China is approximately the size of the United States. It's about 3,000 miles from east to west. So if you were to superimpose the United States onto China, it would be about the same size. And just looking at this map, it sort of has a similar configuration. Most of the population centers of China live in the east, in the fertile areas of the rice fields and the river systems and the large cities along the coastline where there's lots of exporting and importing business. The city of Beijing actually was ultimately surrounded by either a river system or the Great Wall that protected them from the Huns and the Mongols coming in from the north. Somebody just texted me. Okay, anyway, the next PowerPoint shows you, it's a physical map, shows you the Tibetan Plateau in orange. That's the highest place in the world, actually, the highest plateau. The Himalaya Mountains are along the southern border of the Tibetan Plateau, probably part of a tectonic plate that pushed up, and actually 8 of the 10 tallest mountains in the world are along the Himalaya mountain range there. And then, of course, Mount Everest. The next map shows the river systems. The longest river in all of Asia is the Yangtze River, which is the middle river that you see on that map. The Yellow River is the river above it. It dumps into the Yellow Sea, if you'll remember that from your previous map. And then I have a whole bunch of pictures. And I wanted to show the kids, there are tons and tons of national parks in China. China is an incredibly absolutely beautiful country. And it has a lot of variation like the United States does. I mean, we can find our deserts out west. Utah, Nevada have incredible landscapes. We also have the evergreen forest or the Everglades of Florida and Louisiana. We have the Rocky Mountains of Colorado and Montana and Wyoming. We have the Great Lakes. We have so much variety here, and China is very much the same way. And many of their beautiful areas of China are nationalized and protected as national parks, like here in the United States. And so I just showed several pictures of some of those. I think what I did when I made this PowerPoint last year or the year before, I just went to a website that showed me where some of the national parks were. So you'll notice that, again, if I can upload these slides, some of the images, they have a superimposed map on them that shows you where that particular location is. This first one is the Yellow Mountains. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. You can see a walkway there, very mountainous, very rugged, very sharp peaks, lots of small, or not smog, fog. The precipitous pillars, which I believe is in the Yellow Mountains. You'll see it says precipitous mountains. Are really, really strange, cool, weird structures. They look like they just kind of poked up from the ground. And those were the inspiration for the movie Avatar. In the movie Avatar, there are lots of kind of flying mountains. You'll see I included a picture from the movie as well. And so this particular park is the inspiration for the movie Avatar. Full disclosure, I've never seen Avatar. I wouldn't let my kids watch it because of basically the female Martians or space aliens or whatever they are, the avatars, are painted. They almost look naked. And so I didn't want my teenage or pre-teenager son watching them. So we've never watched Avatar. But I'm familiar with the movie, and I know that this was the inspiration. The next national park is in, let's see here, Zhangyi. It's in the middle of the continent or the country, and it is there you can find the Rainbow Mountains. And these pictures are not Photoshopped. This is actually what they look like. They look like they've had pink buckets from heaven poured all over them and created this variety of tie-dye colors. It reminds me a little bit of the United States Badlands. If you've been to the Badlands, there's a little bit of this effect in the Badlands as well. It has to do with nutrients or chemicals in the soil, probably minerals that create this various colors. But anyway, it's just beautiful. And then, of course, China is known for its rice fields. It grows rice prolifically. It's probably the primary food source for all of China. And so they grow rice everywhere. And because much of China is mountainous or hilly, they create the trellises or the stair steps, rice fields. And so rice grows in water. And so they essentially create steps in which water will pool, and the rice paddies and rice can grow in those. There's a picture of the rice fields from the sky. It's an aerial picture. It's absolutely beautiful. And then another one of the national parks, several pictures of it. You'll see kind of a Chinese-looking guy in a boat, and some birds are, it looks like they're trying to get some of his fish catch. But fishing and spear fishing and other things are also part of the national park attraction. Let's see here. And then there are a couple of slides that show a plant growing in a valley, and it's a bright yellow plant. And I don't know if it's like a mustard seed or a particular flower that blooms all at the same time. So you'll see a picture of the hills around it, and then you'll see some people harvesting it. It looks like a flower, but it's in such stark contrast to the landscape around it. It's just quite beautiful. It makes me wonder if this is part of what grows near the Yellow River, and that's what causes the river to be called yellow, but I'm not really sure. I probably should look that up. I just always assume that, but I don't know for sure. The next picture is Tibet. And so if you see the picture, there's a huge palace looking thing. It's actually the Tibetan monastery where a number of the Tibetan priests live, and it's only open for part of the year because it's such a the winters are brutal there. That's at least my understanding. But Tibet was gobbled up by the Chinese, I think, during the communist era in the last century, and the communist China took away religion from everybody, not just Christians, but they also took away religion from the Buddhist, and Buddhism is a native religion of China. And so the Tibetan monks, who are Tibetan Buddhists, it's a denomination of Buddhism. They protested the Chinese government's takeover of Tibet. They set themselves on fire. Their leader, the Dalai Lama, lives in exile now. He doesn't even live in Tibet anymore. He's actually kind of a rock star on the talk show circuits here in the United States. Oprah Winfrey loves the Dalai Lama. I'll talk about him later, but that's his palace, or where he would live if he wasn't living in exile. And there's a few pictures of Mount Everest as well. The north face of Mount Everest is in China. There's also a couple pictures of the terracotta soldiers and the Great Wall of China. These are just all different things that you could see if you were a tourist visiting China. The terracotta soldiers or warriors, you'll see a picture there. This is part of the excavation, this particular picture. There are thousands of these soldiers. Many of them are still encased in dirt. Over the several thousand years, the earth essentially covered up this area. The terracotta soldiers were built by an emperor of China who was fearful that his enemies would come back at him in the afterlife because he was a pretty cruel guy. And so he had his slaves and his workforce create these soldiers that were supposed to protect him in the afterlife. And so his tomb is nearby. I'm not honestly sure if they've ever figured out exactly where his tomb is. I don't know if they've discovered his body or not. But so this is still a work in progress. Not all of them have been uncovered. I was telling the other class that most of them were painted with a variety of colors, and when they unearthed them and they were exposed to oxygen or the air, the paint started chipping off. So what was left underneath was this terracotta mixture or clay that they were originally made out of. So we call them the terracotta soldiers or warriors. So we'll talk more about them later, but there is a picture of them in there. And then I have several pictures of some of the largest cities in China. There are multiple cities with multiple millions of people. So Hong Kong is the first one I have shown here. Hong Kong is in the southern part of China along the coast, and it is an autonomous region. It was part of the British Empire. It was a big part of their import-export business during their empire days. And back in I think it was the 1990s, Great Britain gave over, relinquished control of Hong Kong to the Chinese with the understanding that the people of Hong Kong could continue to function autonomously, independently of the typical Chinese rules that apply to the rest of China. And they have done so up until just 2 or 3 years ago. The Chinese government has tried to pass laws to begin to interfere in Chinese or Hong Kong businesses and government and free elections, and the people of Hong Kong have been protesting and throwing a stinking fit for about 12 months until coronavirus came along. And when the coronavirus began to spread into Hong Kong as well, which is much closer to the epicenter of the Wuhan virus, obviously the protests stopped. And some people suggest that the Chinese intentionally introduced coronavirus into Hong Kong to stop the very much daily protests that were raging in Hong Kong. I don't know. Wouldn't put it past them, but I don't know. If they did do that, they unleashed it on the rest of the world as well. Couple pictures of Hong Kong there, but Hong Kong is has a population of 7.4 million people. And there are, if I remember correctly, there are more skyscrapers in Hong Kong than any other city in the world or something crazy like that. Shanghai is another huge city in China with a population of over 24 million people. Hangzhou has a population of over 10 million. Wuhan, which is where the COVID or coronavirus originated, in the Wuhan city of Wuhan in the Wuhan province of China, is a city of 11 million people. So pretty large city. Beijing, the capital of China, has a population of 21 million. One of the things you'll notice about these cities is that they don't look all drab and dreary communist-like. They actually look pretty modern, and lots of lights and lots of hustle and bustle, not what you might expect in a communist country. And that is true. And so about 50 years ago or so, the Chinese communists decided to maintain control of the government through communist means, but to open up a little bit related to their economy, and they began to incorporate free market capitalism, allowing people to own their own businesses and to be rewarded for producing. And there's just so many people in China that their economy just erupted. And so they rival the United States today on the sheer volume that they produce and they manufacture and they export around the world, although they produce about the same amount with who knows, about 1 billion people in the workforce in China compared to our about 200 million people in the workforce. So we produce about the same as them, but just because of sheer numbers of their population, they have or are about to surpass us in their gross domestic product or their GDP. And then there are several pictures of the Forbidden City. The Forbidden City is in the capital city of Beijing near Tiananmen Square, which is the center of the city. The Forbidden City is where the emperors and their families lived for many, many, many centuries. If you've seen the movie Mulan, or the cartoon Mulan, she eventually and her soldiers that she's fighting with make their way to the Forbidden City, and Forbidden City is where the Han are hiding, and the emperor is living there. And so there's also some pictures just of the city itself. There's lots and lots of shopping there. The transportation system is huge, like Amtrak and train stations and bus stations. There's just so many people that they try to encourage people to take public transportation rather than drive their own vehicles, although a lot of people do. Smog is a real big problem in almost all of these large cities. The Chinese are accustomed to wearing face masks, not necessarily because of viruses, although they will do that. There have been a number of viruses like H1N1, the swine flu, and some other things that have originated out of that area of the world. And so because they live in such compact, close areas in those cities, they're kind of used to wearing the mask for either smog or just protection when they're traveling about. So they're not as annoyed by the mask as we are, because they're used to wearing them. They didn't wear them like in classes and that sort of thing, but if they were out and about, it was pretty common to see people wearing masks there. So, excuse me. Okay, my coffee. All right, so the fact of the day today is the panda bear. And so in your Google Doc, your daily assignment log, I have listed the fact of the day, the panda bear. So if you want to just open up that Google Doc and type your facts of the day into that, you can. And so I love panda bears. Panda bears are native to China. There are actually two different kinds of panda bears. One is called the giant panda, and that is the panda that we're typically used to. Po from Kung Fu Panda. It's the big white and black panda bear with the black ears and the black eyes. And actually, I'm going to turn the camera around. I actually drew a little panda on the board. Can you see him over there? Anyway, we had fun today in class. It was kind of a chill day. There we go. I want to make sure that this is actually recording. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So there's two kinds of panda bears. There's the red panda and there's the giant panda. So Po is the giant panda, the traditional panda. And then the red panda is a much smaller panda bear, looks like a raccoon, completely different than the giant panda. In fact, if you've seen Kung Fu Panda, Master Shifu is actually a red panda. And that sort of explains the rivalry between the two of them. And one of the kids in class asked, why are they even in the same family? One doesn't even look like a panda bear, or what we perceive a panda bear to look like. I don't really know the science behind that. There's certain things that they measure to determine which family an animal grouping is. And these two fall in the same category. There are some people that suggest that panda bears aren't even really bears, but they definitely move and act and whatnot like a bear. So there's several pictures here of the giant panda as well as the red panda. There's a picture of Master Shifu here, but he definitely looks like a raccoon if you've ever seen a raccoon. So let me tell you the difference between the two. So the giant panda will weigh anywhere between 200 and 300 pounds as an adult. They are very kind of slow to move, lounging animals, pretty chill, especially in captivity. They're not generally feared by the people that work with them. They're not very aggressive. They're very chill and laid back, kind of lazy. And they grow about 5 feet long. So 200 to 300 pounds, about 5 feet long. They have this little round, stubby tail flap thing, kind of like a short version of a beaver's tail. The giant panda does. And and I think both the red panda and the giant panda have 6 fingers. And so they have the regular 5, and then they've got another one down here that helps them hold what they traditionally eat. So the giant panda will usually almost exclusively eats bamboo shoots. And there's a picture of a bamboo forest. So you know what bamboo trunk looks like. They pull the limbs off and they eat the stalks and the leaves, and that is what they primarily eat. They hardly eat anything else. They live primarily in the wild anyway, in the bamboo forest of central China. And because those bamboo forests are sort of disappearing for a variety of reasons, the native population of panda bears is endangered. They are protected by the Chinese law, and because they are shrinking so much in the wild, China has adopted this program by which they are trying to prolifically multiply and reproduce pandas within captivity. And they've actually had a significant success. So the captive panda population is growing. The population in the wild is diminishing. We talked a little bit about this in class today as well, that I think all of the pandas in American zoos are actually, or the rights to have them here and to reproduce here are owned by the Chinese. So we pay a significant amount of money. When we were in Washington, D.C., there's a very famous panda family there. They were purchased from China, and we continue to pay several $millions a year or something to have them here, even though we are reproducing them over here. And it seems like there's some sort of special right the Chinese has to any offspring that happens to happen over here. Let's see, the red panda is much smaller. He is about 3.5 feet from the tip of his nose to the end of his tail, and he has a long fluffy tail, and they only get to be about 12 pounds. So if you have any little dogs at home, my dog is little tiny, and he's, I think, 13 pounds, which is hard to believe. So he actually weighs more than a typical red panda. So apparently they are long and fluffy, but they don't weigh very much. They live in the western part of China. They will also eat bamboo, but they primarily only eat the leaves of the bamboo. They live in the trees, but they come down to eat, and they will also eat fruits and nuts and other stems and sticks and stuff that they find on the ground. So the red panda does not eat exclusively the bamboo shoots like the giant panda does. What else? Let's see here. They about half the time when they give birth, they have twins. But in a weird turn of events, a mama baby or a mama panda bear generally will not care for 2 babies. So she'll sort of abandon one and fixate on the other one. And so she'll raise the other one, but she'll let the other one die, which is kind of sad. And so those that have twins in captivity, the people that take care of them will swap the babies out on a regular cycle to make sure that the mama is taking care of both of them. And it's almost like the mama doesn't even know that it's two different babies. She just knows she's got a baby to take care of. So when you get to the slide that has the baby panda bear, she's so cute. That baby is actually probably a few months old. But when you get to that slide, I want you to watch the two videos that I have on the panda bears. One of them shows a set of twins being cared for and being swapped out with the mama bear, or the mama panda. And then the other one is just a super cute little video that was taken in one of the zoos at night when the pandas were brought in. The mama panda had put the baby panda to bed, but the baby panda wasn't ready to go to bed, so she gets up and she finds her way back to her mom. But it is so funny to see how the mama tries to take her back to bed. It's almost human-like, their interaction. So I want you to watch those two videos. Okay, and then for all of these PowerPoint slides, by the way, I'm going to print a copy for you. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I'll make copies for you. The first definition is East Asia, and it's just a list of the countries that we're going to cover in East Asia, which again is Mongolia, China, North and South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. And then I would like for you guys to turn to chapter 26 in your book, and I want you to read, let's see here, pages 640 to 643 in your book, and it's the physical geography of East Asia. We read about half of it in class, and then I kind of summarized it for them because we ran out of time. But in that section, these are some of the things you will read about. The size of China is about the size of the U.S., 3,000 miles from east to west. The Himalaya mountain range is the highest mountain range in the world, and Mount Everest is 29,035 feet. It is the tallest mountain in the Himalaya mountain range. And I told the kids that they do need to know the exact, they need to know that number for the test, 29,035 feet. I don't always have you memorize numbers, but that's one that I will have you memorize. The Tibetan Plateau, which is the highest plateau in the world, which is the central part in bordered by the Himalaya mountains, is called the rooftop or the roof of the world, tallest flat plateau in the world. The Gobi Desert, which is much of Mongolia and feeds into the northern part of China, is the coldest desert in the world, which is interesting because I think the book says it can regularly get to 40 degrees below zero. And that surprises me that it's the coldest desert in the world because Antarctica is considered a polar desert as well. So it must get colder in Mongolia than it gets in Antarctica. It makes you kind of understand why the Mongols were always trying to invade other lands, because their homeland is so miserable to live in. Also told the kids that the people of the Tibetan Plateau, the people that live in Tibet, I'll show you pictures of them later, but their skin is just like leather. It's red and scaly and dry, and part of it's from the dry conditions there and also the altitude. If you've ever been snow skiing for an extended period of time, you wear snow goggles, the skin around your goggles just gets sunburned, and so the people of Tibet sort of look like that. Their skin just looks like it's been fried, even the young kids. Then we talked about the two river systems, which I mentioned before. The Yellow River, or the Huanghe River, is called China's sorrow because it floods all the time. And I don't know why farmers don't realize that. They know that it's going to flood, but it's almost like they're not prepared for it every year. It floods, it ruins, it kills people, it destroys property. But because of the very rich soils around the river, they continue to farm there. So that's the Yellow River, which dumps into the Yellow Sea. Just south of it's in the central part of the state or the country. And then the Yangtze River is Asia's longest river. We'll come back to the Yangtze River because we're going to talk about a huge, massive government a rechanneling a dam there called the Three Gorge Dam, which was a massive undertaking by the Chinese, and scientists say that it actually impacted the tilt of the earth a little bit because it was such a redistribution of one of the world's largest river systems, and pooling up those resources for hydroelectric power and stuff. And then just generally, you'll read this when you read through this section, but China has a very, well, the whole region, but China in particular, has a very varied or variable climate, just like the United States does. So in many places in China, they have your traditional 4 seasons: warm summers, cold winters. They have tropical weather down near Hong Kong, hot and humid. You have mountainous snow skiing areas. You have dry areas. They actually have a desert north of the Tibetan Plateau that has, moving sandstorms and sand dunes. Of course, the Gobi Desert, the lush farmlands of the central part of China. So they have a little bit of everything, just like we do in their climate also. If you were to look at a globe and kind of flip it around, the United States and North America is on one side and China is on the other. They're kind of back about at the same latitude. So they have about a variety of climates. And then, of course, China also has an abundance of resources, whether it be oil, gas, uranium, farmlands, the ability to produce massive amounts of food, natural resources. They have an abundance, and so they are in a good place. Okay, and then we stopped at that point, and we watched a video, a BBC British Broadcasting show, Travel Channel show, and this young British man named Benjamin decides to explore China using nothing but his smartphone. He goes by himself. He's a film person that's helping him film, but China monitors and censors all of the technology and social media platforms and search engines and everything that people use in China. So the Chinese people have no true free access to internet activity. In fact, China doesn't allow people to engage with Facebook or Twitter or Google or any of those sorts of platforms because they want to control the information that the Chinese people see, even about themselves. So like when the coronavirus was going crazy there, the only information they had was the information that the Chinese government allowed them to have. Now, to replace a lot of those social media outlets, the Chinese has created some of those same sorts of programs. So they still have their own version of Instagram and their own version of Google and their own version of Facebook and their own version of Snapchat and blah, blah, blah. But the Chinese government has a back door to all of it. And so they can see everything that everybody is doing. They can censor information. They can send out messages, with the exception of Hong Kong, that autonomous city region that the Chinese got back from the British. The people of Hong Kong have full 100% access to all information. And that's what in part led to much of the protests and riots, because China is trying to clamp down on that, or they would like to clamp down on that. And so this young man, Benjamin, is going to travel within China, knowing that once he leaves Hong Kong, he is not going to have access to all of those tools that he's used to. And he's downloaded Chinese tools that he's going to use to find tour guides, to do translations and those sorts of things. So I want you to watch that video. There's a few questions that I have that I'm going to include in the Google Doc, the daily log in form. And I don't want you to watch the whole thing. The last, 7 minutes of it or so kind of talks about the bar scene and all of that. And I would rather you not watch that. I don't show it in class. But the first 2/3 or 3/4 of the show is pretty interesting. The very last part of that episode that you'll watch is when he goes, he finds a tour guide that is willing to take him to some unusual restaurants in one of the large cities in China, and he tries some pretty nasty food like dog tongue and pig brain and they show him eating it and trying it, and it is absolutely disgusting. So I want you to see that. So anyway, we'll leave it there. So I'm going to upload this video. Hopefully I'll get it uploaded here in the next hour or so. It takes a while for these videos to upload. Make sure you fill out your daily information log, and I think that's it. So there's no homework for Thursday or Friday's class. I'm trying to keep it on the low key this week with half of you guys gone, or so many of you guys gone, and Thanksgiving on the horizon. So we'll have one more lesson about China on Thursday or Friday, depending on which class you're in. And then we'll be off to Thanksgiving break. So anyway, talk to you guys later.